All right, so I want to tell a quick story about social robots. And I'm guessing that most of you don't know a lot about them, so I want to introduce what that is. The middle part of the story is what we're doing at our company with them to commercialize it. And the end is a little bit of the future and how you can learn more about it if you're interested. So why am I talking about it? I've been working at the intersection of health and new technology for about 15 years. The arc of that work is a lot of work for aging in place, technology for the elderly. Over the last decade has led into the work I'm doing here with interactive robots. So I did a master's and PhD at the MIT Media Lab and Boston University Medical Center in long-term behavior change using social robots. So Autumn is our weight loss coach. So this is the first product that we as a company are bringing to market, commercializing this work. But the work actually starts when I went back to school in 2001. I ended up doing a series of studies to understand what happens when we interact with a physical robot. So using things as complex as this, as simple as these eyes, as complex as big furry robots with 70 motors in them, and found two major differences with people interacting with a physical robot versus a character on a screen. One is that we're more engaged with something that's physically there in front of us. And number two is it's more effective at conveying information. Now, what we found out is this parallels exactly what we know about face-to-face versus mediated interaction. These talks are being filmed. We could easily sit at home and watch these online, but it makes a difference when we're face-to-face talking with someone. And what I found is that carries over very strongly into technology. The culmination of this work was a randomized controlled trial. This is the early version of Autumn. I hand-built all of those. That's led to this. And then in terms of commercializing that, what we've built is this relationship model. So we really start with a psychological model of how we as people create, build up, and maintain relationships. Now the output of all of this is simply a conversation. So what we're doing is building different applications on top of this platform. So weight loss, diabetes management, medication adherence. There are a lot of applications that we see in the near future. So where are we now? We have a product that's about to come to market. So we see this as one of the first of a new kind of technology that is not going to just be our company, but I think we're going to see a lot of this in the next 3 to 5 years coming to market. There are other people starting to look at applications using interactive robots for a number of reasons. So we see two big trends. One we've already heard about, Mima spoke about, the aging population. So the US is kind of in the middle of this trend. There are a lot of other countries in the world in a similar place. And the other thing that's happening is a takeoff of connected devices, which of course I think most of this crowd is familiar with. These are great at giving us a piece of data. An interface like this is wonderful at creating a conversation around it and keeping us engaged and motivated over time. So what are the challenges? Why can't we build something as cute and interactive as Hollywood does for us? And I think there are a lot of challenges that are being overcome. So the whole concept of human-robot interaction, this is a robot that I had the fortune to work on about a decade ago that's now up in the International Space Station. So there's about 15 years of research in understanding what happens when we interact with these things. We understand a lot about the psychology of the interaction. We understand more and more about the medical aspects of it and how we can use it effectively. Yet one of the challenges in this area remains funding. There's not a lot of money yet for cutting-edge interactive healthcare technology. And I think one of the challenges is Hollywood. They've done a disservice to introducing a lot of new technology, particularly robotics. Although what I see is this is really not one of the biggest challenges. When I put something like this in front of people, they really want to use it. And I've done work with hundreds of people in many different robots. So there's a lot of great research going on all over the US and all over the world. If you're really interested, it's very easy to find some of the new things happening in human-robot interaction. But my perspective on this is to look at the big picture. Understand what are the things that kill us? What are the things that we're managing on an ongoing basis? Everything in red here. What are the real challenges in terms of healthcare and how we adopt it? This is how I spent my Monday. This is my grandmother in a nursing home. I've spent a lot of time over the last 15 years in settings like this with lots of different people, really trying to understand what are the needs in terms of healthcare. And I think this is the right approach to developing technology like this. So I would love to talk to you in the few minutes we have here and afterwards or after this to get your input on where technology like this can be used in healthcare.
How do you deal with the legal implications? You put a device like that for managing suicide, for example, and then you have a bad outcome. How does the company deal with that?
So there's two answers to that question. There are really two pieces to that. So part of it is we don't provide medical care or advice. We're not creating that. This is not coming up with it. That still comes from a caregiver. Right? So this is a new interface to deliver that. The other part of the answer is we don't know. This is a new device. We've got lawyers that we're working with and trying to figure that out. Part of the reason for introducing our weight loss coach first, as opposed to something, helping prevent suicide, is it's an easier place to enter and start to figure out these questions. And I think, if you look at the kind of stuff that we're all talking about here, or if you look particularly around quantified self or, applications, the FDA issued new guidance day before yesterday or so on how they're going to regulate these. But it's an ongoing process, and I don't think we know the answer. I think it's going to be a long time before we do. In the back.
That was a very touching photo of you in the nursing home. Do you ever think there will be a day when that kind of comfort and personal touch will be replaceable by a robot?
No, I hope not.
It's just interesting because you talked about elderly care.
Yeah.
I know that the
So,
companies are doing a lot of research into using human robots for that specific thing.
Yeah, absolutely true. My approach here and what we're trying to do as a company is not to replace people, but to augment them. Right? So my grandmother is in a nursing home outside of Oklahoma City. I get to see her very infrequently. It would be great if I could send messages to her in other ways. She's blind and almost deaf. I can't use a tablet, or really difficult to talk to her on the phone. But even just the day-to-day things that she needs, or many other people in a situation like that, whether they're in a nursing home or at home and trying to care for themselves. I think there's a lot of things that we can do with technology. Whether it's an interactive robot that's great for long-term chronic conditions, behavior change, a lot of the ongoing issues, or the short-term. My father had knee replacement surgery a year and a half ago, and right afterwards, he's just retired, still very cognitively high function, overall in pretty good shape. But he went home with a stack of papers of everything he was supposed to do, and these 7 medications he had to take, some for the next week, next 2 weeks, next month, and just even for him to figure all that out and keep track of it is tough. I think it's situations like that where technology is wonderful, right? So it's not about replacing the people. It's not about getting rid of that interaction and sitting there holding my grandmother's hand. It's about everything else that we need to do on an ongoing basis. Yeah.
So are you seeing sort of emotional interactions between the robots? Because, it's one thing to say it's time for your medication.
Yep.
And that could be actually a very negative interaction.
Right.
To that more supportive.
Yeah. So the core of what we do is work on building up a relationship. Okay, so we're not trying to convince anyone that this is a human, that this is their best friend, that it's their companion to talk to. But through those everyday conversations, create an ongoing relationship. So you saw the photo that I put up of one of the earlier robots, the ones that I'd hand built. We put a bunch of those out in homes. It was a randomized controlled trial. A third of the participants in that study got the robot. Another third got a computer. Same software, same touchscreen interface on the front of it. Another third got today's standard of care for weight loss, which is a paper log, right? Write down how much you're eating and exercising. After a couple of months, the people who had either the computer or the paper log had given up. Most of them after 3 to 4 weeks, which is typical for diets. Turns out one of the challenges at the end of the study was people wouldn't give the robots back to us. Not only that, when I walked in, it wasn't that plain white robot. They were wearing hats, scarves. One of them had a red feather boa around its neck. Yeah, and they wouldn't give them back. Almost every single person had named them. All right, and these were not. This was not a study with elderly. The age range in this one was 18 to 73. Average age was early 40s. People were spending about 3 to 4 minutes a day interacting with it. But through those conversations that constantly changed, that was enough to feel like they had developed a relationship and feel like this thing was really helping them.
So did they have personalized sounds, like the voice? Could they change the voice to the voice they like male, female?
In this early version, no, it was very simple. So it was that was using an older text-to-speech voice.
And some people didn't.
Yep.
So I think we're out of stand up. Let's make that the last questions and then we'll do a little wrap up.
I was really interested because you said your relationship model does include, one of the elements is personality.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, how do you come up with the personality? By giving this discussion, I know you're saying that we don't want to replace humans, but I can imagine an elderly person or someone that does have a robot like this, that they do face some dilemma when they go to turn it off.
Yeah. So there's kind of a bunch of questions in there. I'll try to answer briefly and then we can talk about it afterwards. In terms of the personality, the way that we do it right now is we define the personality for the system when we create it. So we're creating a particular application like our weight loss coach. The weight loss coach, for example, is always friendly and supportive. She's not going to say anything negative. There's some interesting research, I think, to be done that we haven't started yet. I don't know of anyone else working on it, but I have ideas of how we can do it to adapt the personality to the individual. And so one thing I've seen in the clinic is the best doctors, dietitians, and nutritionists, for example, in the weight loss clinic I spent a couple of years in, are the ones who could very quickly switch their personality from one patient to the next. Right? So very quickly pick up, okay, this person needs support, this person needs the tough love. Right? And so to be able to really quickly do that, so to do something like that. And then to turn it off, the way that this one actually works is at the end of a conversation, she goes to sleep. Right? So she closes her eyes and puts her head down, and then when you go tap her on the shoulder, she'll wake up again. But there's a lot of interesting design questions around that as well.
If it goes to sleep, it isn't turned off.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Very quick question. Does this thing turn on?
Yes, and I'll be happy to give demos when we're done here.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the speakers. It was really wonderful, and without any prompting, we weren't looking for several speakers on behavior change, but I did notice that seems to be where we're going with technology. We're looking to be better humans, and how can we enable that? And to tell you a bit about some of the research that we've done, Ben, who is on our Health Horizons team, is going to give you a really brief overview of what they do.
Sure. Hi, so I'm Ben. I introduced myself briefly earlier, and now I'm going to introduce the Health Horizons program briefly as well. The Health Horizons program, essentially we look at, very much like the organization looks out over a 10-year horizon, and tech looks at technology over a 10-year horizon. We look at health and beyond just sort of the narrow traditional definitions of health. We look at the entire well-being landscape and the entire well-being ecosystem, which includes so much more than healthcare. And and we take a very broad definition of health that includes sociality, mental health, and all of that, of course, is dependent on things beyond healthcare. The social determinants of health, the environmental determinants of health. And we're just really thrilled to have all of these speakers and everyone here to discuss this with us today. I think everything the speakers present were really relevant to the work that we do here. Particularly this next year, we're researching aging and sort of the effect that population aging is going to have on health and how we're going to meet that challenge. And technology, is obviously going to be a huge part of that. And so it was sort of fortuitous that we ended with Cory, because I think that in particular is relevant to the work that we're going to be doing next year. So if anybody has any additional questions about the program, feel free to come talk to me. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ben. That's great. And just one bit of a project that we actually have going on today and tomorrow.
Who's seen this flyer? Anyone? All right, a couple people. So we had a lot of really great, thought-provoking presentations and very thoughtful questions that stirred up a lot of interesting ideas. And right now we have a Foresight Engine game going on, which is a game where anyone can play. And you can sign up at innovate2038.org. And right now we're looking at innovating and reinventing the very concept of research and design and innovation for the 21st century. So we're looking at what's going to happen in the next 20 years, 25 years. in research and design. And I think that a lot of these ideas that we came up with today and that we kind of milled over are very applicable to what we're doing here. And so we started the game this morning at 9 a.m. Right now we have over 350 players and about 4,300 ideas since 9 a.m. this morning. And people from over 36 countries are playing. And I'd really like to invite everyone to come and sign up today to play for the next however many hours it is. The game closes tomorrow night at 9 p.m. But if you have any questions, you can talk to me or any of the other IFTF staff, and we'd be happy to let you know. So,
Thank you. And so that's it for the formal stuff. Feel free to stick around and mingle. We've got maybe 20, 30 minutes to do that. And make your connections. University Ave is a really great place to go and meet for a drink, dinner afterward. And we hope that you continue the conversation about health and tech after. That's it. Thank you.